You want to make a bit more bread? Don't want to work until you're dead. So come and listen ahead and find some other ways instead.
Hello, in this week's episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast, we are going to discuss what financial freedom is, how it's affected us, and whether it's right for you. My name is Gary Freeman. I'm a former corporate lawyer, now investor and finance educator and mentor.
And my name's Ronnie Freeman. I'm a property developer, artist, and interior designer. And we will start, as per usual, with our news story of the week.
And this week is the story that John Lewis are going to build to rent 10,000 new homes.
Ooh.
So they are going to sort of flood the rental market. And I actually think it's a very good move. They've got sort of excess space. Some of their retail stores they no longer need, or they no longer need to such great extent as they did pre-COVID. That includes sort of their car parks and also Waitrose department stores as well.
Waitrose closed down?
Waitrose not closed down, but I know, for example, two in Manchester are no longer operating. One of them is actually now a co-op, but some space they owned, they no longer want to use. They obviously online now is where it's all at, and they've noticed that and sort of are now trying to take advantage of, I guess, the booming property bubble. They've been in this market before, but I think this is a real indication that they're going to sort of put their foot on the gas. And
so they've been in the market before, so they've got other houses.
They have, yeah, but I think this is now kind of massively growing it. I mean, 10,000 is quite a large amount of stock, and I think this is just the start as well. It's possibly going to get more, and I think the key thing here is that they're going to produce a lot of that stock is going to be sort of real John Lewis houses, and by that I mean it's going to be kitted out with the John Lewis gear, fridges, freezers, curtains, whatever. So it's going to be a fairly premium product, and I think that might be fairly attractive to potential tenants in the area. So I think it's a watch out for landlords in that area. That suddenly you've got not just your local landlord that you're potentially sort of competing against, but actually someone who's got a lot of money, who's going to attract the tenants.
I've never seen new builds to rent, or maybe I have.
Yeah, it's been something that's well, yeah, exactly. It's become something that's fairly popular, certainly with apartments in the last, I don't know, sort of 10 years maybe.
These are houses, yeah.
Some houses and some flats. So a lot in the in sort of student area. There's a lot of built to rent, and it's big bucks, it's big pension firms that are, that's where the money's coming from. And I think Lloyd's are now looking to do something similar. So it's fairly obvious they can see sort of the risk rewards of property.
Wow.
And I think they are taking some of a risk, because some of their areas may not be prime for potential tenants. They might not be near other stuff, schools, etc.
If the land's free to begin with,
yeah, then they shouldn't really be going.
Helping hand.
Exactly. So they shouldn't be going too far.
It's a nice business model.
I think the numbers will probably work, and I'm sure they know that. I think the management might be a bit tricky. It's not that easy necessarily looking after a whole bunch of tenants, as we've talked about before. So they'll have to sort of get in bed with the right management companies, but I'm sure that they know what they're doing. And so,
I'd have John Lewis looking after that. If they put up what's the agency called that look after tenants?
The management agent.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to go. They'll use external, but they'll have the John Lewis brand. They've got a good brand, and I think that will be attractive to tenants. So yeah, watch out, landlords. Maybe you have to book up your game, which hopefully you're doing anyway. But if you're not, then you might need to go and give your house or flat that's in that area a bit of a spruce up.
A nice John Lewis sofa.
Exactly, or maybe not. Maybe pick something else just to rival them. So yeah, on to our main story of the week, which is a real discussion about financial freedom. A lot of people ask, I think both of us, but particularly me, what's going on? What is this financial freedom that you talk of? It's a fairly foreign name. I must admit, I only heard about it sort of 2-3 years ago. And if you'd asked me then, you're interested in it, I'd say, well, yeah, maybe, but but maybe in sort of 10, 15,
dream
20,
on.
20 years time. Yeah, exactly. And I guess I've realised, and I did realise during those years, that actually it was a lot more realistic and possible than I ever did think when I first heard about it. So what is it? Do you want to summarise what you think it is?
Financial freedom is
Da-da-dum.
not having to do things that you don't want to do because of money being a driver.
Yeah, I think that's how I was supposed to. And things really, we're talking about your job, I think, is probably
Yeah.
the main thing. So it's that you don't need to go and do that job you are probably currently doing, because that is the only way you're going to pay the bills. So it's
Doesn't mean you have to quit your job
exactly,
if you like your job.
if it's not dictating anything else other than you're in that position. Now, all that really means is that you've got enough money to cover your bills on a monthly basis. So it's really broad, because, as Ronnie said, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to quit your job. It could mean you're working part-time. It could
Well,
mean,
it could mean you're going on less holidays.
yeah, exactly, it's to cut down the cost side of things. But I think it can mean that you go and live in a cheap country. You know, lots of people that are part of this now, what fairly mass group of people, which is called FIRE, Financial Independence Retirement Early. Some of them go and live in Thailand for 6 months of the year because it's much cheaper. So they actually think, right, that's a good opportunity to actually cut down on your costs, which is what Ronnie was saying. And if to live in 6 months in Thailand, you don't need anywhere near as much money. So that's an option. You can, the other way of thinking about it is that you'll go and do a job that you may want to really do, and it might not be paid as well, but you may decide that actually that's good enough for you and
Your passion.
and the expenses that you've got coming, and that might be supplemented by different investments. So the most obvious, if you've got, say, a buy-to-let property bringing in half your current wage, or half your current wage once after tax, then all you then need is a job to supplement that other half, and you actually then at the same level that you're at whilst when taking into account your full job. So it can mean lots of different things to lots of different people. Have you heard of any sort of financial independence people, what they do with their lives, their time?
I've heard of people basically living like students, working hard. Saw an article online, and then they paid off every month. Everything went to paying off the mortgage, and then they built. And then once the mortgage was paid off, they built up They might have rented a room out, I don't know, and then they built up a pot to retire on, and they would carry on living like students for the rest of their lives. But they quite enjoyed the budgeting aspect, and they were more than happy not to work. That was their dream fulfilled.
So I think that's it. I suppose it's putting your time over, as basically probably the number one priority. So it's saying that you want to be the master of your own destiny. And I think the biggest myth, this is about myth busting, is that you need this huge pot to get there.
$1 million plus.
Yeah, $1 million plus, and that is in some of the books. Now, why I think that's wrong really is two factors. The first is that often that assumes no growth in the market. Now, if you're going to if you're going to become financially free earlier, then the chances are the market will continue to grow. Now, we've discussed compound effects and market growth in the past, but if you do assume, say, 6% growth each year, that's your money that, let's say, you've already invested, keeps growing and growing. So actually, you don't need as big a pot as you think when becoming financially free at the age of, say, 40 than you do at the age of 60, when that money has got less time to grow. And I think the second biggest myth is that you're going to end up doing nothing. So it's assuming you might need your £1 million if you don't do this until you're 60, but also if you don't plan on bringing any money in. So some people will want that. Some people will want to never kind of work again or never have any kind of form of income. But actually what we're saying is that you can go out there and do other stuff. It will be different to what you're doing, possibly in a completely different walk of life, but it's still going to bring in money and potentially even more money. So actually, you may not need a bigger pot as you envisaged. Do you want to discuss kind of things that we've been up to since
So
I took the plunge?
when Gary was in the law, so he'd be working like 10-hour days on average, sometimes more. So yeah, limited my time. So unless we had a property on the go that needed my
Finesse and beautiful style.
that's the one. Then yeah, and even when I was doing that, I'd have to be home for free to get the kids and cook my dinner, and it was all very much on me. So now Gary's more flexible and he does a lot of the school pickups, so my time's a lot more free. So I've when we're not doing our own properties, I've ventured into the world of interior design, and I've got my first couple of clients. So it's just nice. My day doesn't end. My day's a lot longer, and it's it's opened up my world to business, I suppose, and less mummyhood. I'm still a mum.
Yeah. So obviously get in touch if you do want any interior design services. And I've also been sort of growing projects on the side as well. There's this podcast, and hopefully sort of getting our name out there as an educator, and we'll see where that ends up. And now also offering sort of mentoring services as well for anyone who's potentially interested in sort of this financial freedom and thinking of the future and financial planning. So again, please get in touch if that's something that's of interest to you. Gary.financialfreeman@gmail.com. So we are working. We're not sat there in the garden all day every day.
But we do sit in the garden more than we used to.
Especially today. It was in such beautiful weather.
He does all his work outside.
Yeah,
I don't know how he sees his laptop, but
I do absolutely love it. So that's working for us. But is it working? Could it work for you? I think let's say who it couldn't work for, and I suppose that's someone who's just not a self-starter in any way, who doesn't want to be in control of their own destiny. Yes, you could go and get another job doing something you want to do, but if that is for less money, then the likelihood is you're going to need something else to supplement that income that you had, unless of course you bring down your expenses completely. So can you do that? Are you the sort of person that wants to be, I guess, in charge? Now, I actually think 95% plus of people probably can. They've got some spark in there, and if they actually find what they're passionate about, that's the thing that can make them the money. It's not about just churning something out anymore. That actually, if they really find something that's them, then they can properly grow that, possibly with a bit of tuition, a bit of help, but actually it's there, and the fire will be in their belly to go out and do it. So it's possibly not for a small percentage of people who want to be. Control is the wrong word. What do you want?
It's going to work. It's a step-by-step formula.
Yeah.
You go in, you know what to do.
Yeah.
You know when to finish.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Yeah. You don't have to research and think, is this going to work? And you've not got your own. Is it risk?
Yeah, you're not going out there and actually thinking, right, I'm going to do this and it's going to work, and have more setbacks. Probably in work, yeah, there will be setbacks. You'll get things wrong, but you still pretty much always still have your job.
Even when you get it wrong, you get paid.
Yeah, exactly. So you can now fall back on that, and it's formulaic, I think is what we're trying to say, and that to some people is attractive. You get home, you might be tired, and you might have moaning about it, but it's sort of there, and that's a good thing. So that's the group of people who might really not be suitable for. But as I said, I don't think that group is as big as we think, because I think even those people could find something that they love.
And a lot of people love their jobs anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose that's probably the second bracket, is that if you actually love what you're doing, then and don't want to do anything else, and this is what you want to be doing for the rest of your life, then again, fantastic.
Well done.
Well done. Tune into our stuff about making potentially more money from other investments, but you don't need to be leaving your job. And then the third thing is again, a factor that people will throw out, but I don't think is as big a factor, and that's all about risk. People who don't want to take any risks probably shouldn't be doing this, because there's obviously some element of risk. At the moment we're in growing stages of what we're doing, and okay, with the property we're probably at a stage where that's not comfortable, but it's already at a level we know is working. But with the other bits and bobs, we're taking a bit of a risk of whether they work or not. Now, actually, if they don't work out, then it doesn't really matter. We've not lost anything. We're not pumping millions into these businesses, so we're okay with it. But for some people, they won't want sort of any disappointment. They won't actually want to just take that next step, and they won't like the fact of when the stock market's going down, or they won't like the fact when a tenant doesn't pay, or when the roof, it needs a new roof in a property, or it doesn't matter what it is, but they might just not like the fact of.
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it, but we're used to it, and I guess we can
It's just
adapt
part
our
of it, yeah.
mindset to be able to do that. So again, I think there'll be certain people that just won't even want to entertain this idea because it's just foreign. But I think if they did become educated on it, then it may not become as foreign, and they might, as I said before, they might just decide to take a new job just in a completely different field, and all they need to do is supplement that a tiny bit with a tiny bit of risk, say in property, to get to a position where they are technically financially free. So yeah, I do think it is for the majority of people, but if you have got a job that you love, a job that's doing fantastic things, helping people out, please don't leave it. You're probably doing something amazing for society. So keep it up. But for all of the people, apart from those people who just don't want to take any risks whatsoever, then I think this could be for you. So stay tuned and carry on following us. So I think on that note, the one other thing is this quote, which is that there's this famous quote which I think does resonate with this whole message, which is that if you find something you love doing, then you're never doing another day's work in your life. And it gets bounded about on all these sort of different courses, but for us, well, for me, it's very true. I no longer feel like I'm working, so even when I'm kind of at night bounding off emails to builders or whatever, or speaking to potential new investors or anything like that to me isn't work. I'm loving doing that. So if you can find that passion, then you won't be talking about going to work, because it'll be all encompassing with what you're doing anyway. So thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned, and we look forward to hearing from you next week.
Bye.
Bye.